I was looking at my phone this morning, just scrolling through pages of apps, ride sharing, food delivery, calendar, email, notes, and it hit me. We spend half our lives just acting as the glue between these different pieces of software. I copy an address from a text, paste it into Maps, check the time in my calendar, then switch to a ride app. It feels archaic.
It is archaic. You're acting as the middleware. You're the API connecting all these siloed systems. And frankly, that's exactly what's about to end. We are standing on the edge of a massive shift, maybe bigger than the shift from command line to graphical interface. We're moving from the era of chatbots to the era of agentic AI.
Agentic AI. I keep hearing this term thrown around in tech circles. It sounds like a buzzword, but you're saying it's a fundamental architectural change?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. The AI we've gotten used to, like standard ChatGPT, is passive. It's like a brilliant encyclopedia or a very well-read librarian. You ask a question, it gives an answer, but it stops there. It doesn't have hands. It can't leave the library.
Right. It can write me an email, but it can't actually hit send unless I copy paste it.
Exactly. Agentic AI is different. It has hands, it has agency. It doesn't just generate text, it executes actions. It perceives the world, makes a plan, uses tools like a web browser, a calculator, or an API, and then critiques its own work. It's the difference between a consultant who gives you advice and an employee who actually does the job.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also a little unnerving. So, let's pop the hood. What is happening internally? If I ask an agentic AI to, say, plan a trip to Tokyo and book the hotels, what is it actually doing inside the black box? Because that's way more complex than just predicting the next word in a sentence.
It is. The architecture is fascinating. It usually starts with a reasoning loop. When you give that command, the agent doesn't just start guessing hotels. It pauses. It enters a phase often called chain of thought or planning. It breaks your goal down into subtasks. Task 1. Check user's calendar for dates. Task 2. Search flights for those dates. Task 3. Cross-reference flights with hotel availability.
So it's creating its own to-do list?
Precisely. But here's the magic part. It has access to tools. In the code, we define these tools. Functions that let the AI connect to the outside world. So the brain, the large language model, looks at the to-do list and says, okay, for step 1, I need to use the calendar tool. It executes code, gets the data back, reads it, and then decides what to do next based on that new information.
That's the key difference, right? It's dynamic. If the calendar says I'm busy, the agent changes the plan?
Yes, that's the reflection step. If it tries to book a flight and the API returns an error saying no flights found, a standard script would just crash. An agentic AI looks at the error and thinks, maybe I should try a different airport or shift the dates by one day. It iterates. It's a loop of observation, thought, action, and observation again.
It's almost like the OODA loop used in military strategy. Observe, orient, decide, act.
That is exactly what it is. And for this to work, you need memory. Not just the context window of the chat, but long-term memory. We usually use vector databases for this. It allows the agent to store information, like your preference for aisle seats or your budget limits, and recall it days or weeks later without you having to repeat yourself.
Okay, so we have a brain, the LLM, hands, the tools, and memory. This brings me back to my opening thought about apps. If I have an agent that can use tools, do I need the Uber app? Do I need the Airbnb app?
That's the billion-dollar question. The interface of the future isn't a grid of icons. It's a prompt box or maybe just voice. If an agent can interact with the Uber API directly, the visual interface, the buttons, the maps, the loading screens, becomes redundant for the end user. We are moving toward the invisible interface.
That's terrifying for UI designers.
It is, but it's liberating for users. Imagine you're a developer. Right now, you spend hours writing boilerplate code, debugging, setting up environments. There are already coding agents like Devon or open source versions that can take a request like, build me a snake game in Python, Write the code, run it, see that it failed, read the error message, fix the bug, and run it again until it works.
It's debugging itself.
It's debugging itself, and this is accessible now. We aren't talking about sci-fi. People are building these frameworks on their laptops today.
Let's talk about that. If a listener is sitting there thinking, I want my own Jarvis, how hard is it? Do you need a PhD in machine learning?
Not anymore. That's the beauty of the current open source ecosystem. You have frameworks like LangChain, LangGraph, or Crew AI. These are essentially software development kits for building agents. They abstract away the hard part. You don't need to train a model. You just plug in a model, like GPT-4 or Claude, and then you define the tools.
Give me a concrete example. If I wanted to build a simple agent this weekend, what would that look like?
Okay, let's say you want a stock market analyst agent. You'd write a simple Python script using LangChain. First, you give the agent a persona. You tell it, you are a skeptical financial analyst. Then, you give it two tools, a web search tool and a calculator tool.
Okay, simple enough.
Then you set the loop. You ask it, is Apple a good buy right now? The agent uses the search tool to find current news and stock prices. It reads the results. It might see a PE ratio and decide to use the calculator tool to compare it to the industry average. Finally, it synthesizes all that into an answer. You can build that prototype in about 50 lines. 50 lines of code.
50 lines? That's wild. But here's where I get skeptical. We've all seen AI hallucinate. It makes things up. If I give an agent hands, access to my bank account or my email, and it hallucinates, the consequences aren't just a wrong answer. It could be a disaster.
You've hit the nail on the head. This is the biggest hurdle right now. Reliability and control. In the industry, we call it the loops of doom. Sometimes an agent gets stuck trying to solve a problem, repeating the same wrong action over and over, burning through your API credits, or worse, your money.
So how do we stop Skynet from accidentally buying me 500 toasters?
Human in the loop. That's the architecture most companies are adopting. The agent does the research, plans the purchase, fills out the cart, but before it hits checkout, it pauses and sends a notification to you. I'm about to buy this. Approve?
So we become managers rather than operators.
Exactly. You're moving from the guy digging the ditch to the foreman pointing at where the ditch should be. But that shift requires a psychological change too. You have to trust the system enough to delegate, but not enough to stop watching it. It's a delicate balance.
There's also a philosophical angle here. If these agents start interacting with each other, say, my scheduling agent talks to your scheduling agent to book a lunch.
And neither of us actually sees the conversation?
Right. The entire internet just becomes bots talking to bots. What happens to the human connection? Or even just the serendipity of stumbling upon something while you're browsing?
That's a profound risk. The curated cage. If an agent only fetches exactly what you ask for, you lose the peripheral vision. You don't see the other book on the shelf. You don't see the alternative hotel that looked cool. We risk optimizing our lives to the point of sterility. Efficiency is great, but friction is often where discovery happens.
And what about the economy of the web? If an agent reads the news for me and just gives me the summary, I never visit the website. The publishers lose ad revenue. The content creators starve.
It breaks the current contract of the internet. The web runs on eyeballs. Agents don't have eyeballs, they have data scrapers. If agents become the primary way we consume information, the economic model of the internet has to collapse and be rebuilt. Maybe websites start charging API fees to agents instead of showing ads to humans.
That's a fascinating thought. A distinct internet for bots and one for humans.
We're already seeing it. Robots.txt files are the battleground, but looking forward, the potential is just too high to ignore. Imagine medical agents. Not just a chatbot giving advice, but an agent that has access to your smartwatch data, your blood work history, and current medical research. It monitors you 24/7. It notices a trend in your heart rate, cross-references it with your medication, and books an appointment with a specialist before you even feel sick.
That's the dream, right? Proactive, not reactive.
Proactive is the word. Current software waits for you. Agentic AI anticipates you. But to get there, we have to solve the context window problem. how much the AI can remember at once, and the planning fallacy, where the AI makes a plan that looks good on paper, but fails in the real world because it doesn't understand physics or human nuance.
So, for the developers listening who want to jump in, you mentioned LangChain. Are there other architectures they should look at? I've heard of multi-agent systems.
Yes, that's the next level. Instead of one super smart agent trying to do everything, you build a crew. You use a framework like Crew AI or Microsoft's AutoGen. You create one agent that is the researcher, one that is the writer, and one that is the editor.
Like a virtual newsroom.
Exactly. You give the task to the manager agent and it delegates. The researcher finds the data, passes it to the writer. The writer drafts a post. The editor critiques it and sends it back to the writer if it's not good enough. They converse with each other. The output is usually much higher quality because you're forcing specialization.
That feels very human. We solve complex problems by building teams, not by trying to be a genius individual.
We are essentially recreating corporate structures in code, which is both hilarious and effective. But it works because LLMs, like humans, perform better when they have a specific, narrow focus.
So, where is this going in the next 12 to 24 months? Are we going to see Apple or Google roll this out to the masses?
I think the operating system is the final frontier. Apple Intelligence and Windows Copilot are the early steps. Eventually, the OS is the agent. You won't manage files, you won't manage apps, you will just have a persistent state of data that the AI manipulates for you. But before we get there, we're going to see a lot of broken agents, a lot of frustration.
The trough of disillusionment.
Oh, deep in the trough. We're in the hype phase now. Everyone is building agents. 90% of them will fail because they're too slow, too expensive, or just annoying. But the 10% that work, they are going to fundamentally change how we work.
It really does feel like we're automating the process of thought itself. Not just the output, but the process.
We are automating executive function. That's the best way to put it. We are building synthetic executive function.
That is a heavy thought to leave on. Synthetic executive function. It sounds like we're building a second brain, not just a smarter typewriter.
A second brain that can type, click, and buy things with your credit card.
Laughs. Which is why I'm keeping my credit limit low for now.
Smart move.
This has been a massive deep dive. From the death of the app interface to the nitty-gritty of reasoning loops and vector memory. It's clear that Agentic AI isn't just a feature update. It's a new platform entirely.
It is. And for anyone listening, don't just watch. Go download a framework. Try to build a simple agent. Even if it just checks the weather and emails you a poem about it, understanding how the loop works is going to be a critical skill for the next decade.
Get your hands dirty before the robots do it for you.
Exactly.
Thanks for breaking this down. It's exciting, a little terrifying, but mostly inevitable.
Pleasure as always.
We'll see you all next time. Hopefully by then, my agent will be the one recording this intro.
Laughs. Don't give it ideas.
Take care, everyone.